Have you ever told yourself, it's only a few seconds, I'll start after this? One more scroll, one more snooze, one more small delay that feels harmless because it's small. Seconds don't look like much when they're alone. They arrive quietly, pass without protest, and leave no visible bruise. But if you listen closely, you can hear what they become when they gather. The soft, steady ticking that builds a life either sharpened or squandered. Maybe you felt that slow leak. You meant to learn the skill, call your parents, open the document, lace your shoes for a run, yet the moment thinned and slipped away. We imagine we're saving energy by waiting. We imagine we'll have more time later. But time never comes in barrels. It comes in drops. And the drops decide everything. Stay till the end, because this story might change how you hear every second from this day forward. It's about an old clockmaker in a narrow lamplit shop where the walls hum with dozens of ticking hearts. It's about a young apprentice who believes big results require big moments, and who thinks small units of time are too small to matter. It's about a lesson hidden in brass gears and hair-thin springs. A lesson that refuses to shout, yet refuses to be ignored. If your days feel scattered, if your goals feel forever almost, if you keep waiting for a larger window to become the person you mean to be, this story is for you. Listen. There it is again. Tick, tock. A decision, then another. A life, then another. In a quiet village where cobblestone streets wound between modest homes and the bell tower marked each passing hour, there stood a narrow wooden shop. Its windows were fogged with the breath of years, and from within came a steady chorus of ticking, as if the walls themselves held 100 little hearts. This was the shop of the old clockmaker, a man whose wrinkled hands carried the patience of decades, and whose ears could hear time not just as sound, but as meaning. Beside him worked his young apprentice, a boy whose energy outpaced his discipline. He often swept the shavings half-heartedly, adjusted gears with careless fingers, and muttered to himself, "It's only a second, no one will notice." To him, time felt endless, like a river that would never run dry. Why guard each drop when the stream seemed infinite? He dreamed of creating something grand one day, but in the small tasks of each morning, he chose shortcuts. The village folk loved the old man's repairs. His clocks rarely lost even a heartbeat. But when the apprentice tried, the results were uneven. Hands skipped, chimes rang late, and the villagers smiled politely, choosing always to wait for the master's touch. A quiet frustration began to grow in him. Why did his work fall short? Why did his efforts crumble while the old man seemed flawless? One evening, after a day of many mistakes, the apprentice slumped on the bench. Surrounded by the persistent ticking, he whispered, "If time is endless, why does it feel like I'm already losing it?" That question, fragile and unformed, was the seed of change. The next morning, the boy found the old clockmaker waiting at the bench with an unfinished timepiece laid bare between them. The gears were scattered like puzzle pieces, the springs coiled tightly as if holding secrets. The master's eyes, calm yet piercing, rested on the apprentice. "Do you know," the old man began, "why people trust my clocks and not yours?" The boy hesitated. "Because you've had more years to practice?" The old man shook his head. "Number it is because I do not ignore a second." He tapped the table gently, once, then again, each tap perfectly spaced. "A clock is nothing but a keeper of seconds, and life is no different." He slid the unfinished clock toward his apprentice. "I want you to assemble this one. Every gear, every pin. Do not rush. Do not dismiss the small. If you lose even a single second, the whole will betray you. The boy frowned. The task seemed simple enough. Fit the parts, set the hands, wind the spring. But there was something in the master's tone that made it feel heavier, as if the lesson was not about brass and metal at all. Still, he accepted. I will try. Not try, the master corrected. Attend. Listen to the seconds as they fall. They will teach you if you let them. That day marked the beginning of a quiet challenge, one that would test not his strength, but his patience. Each tick of the clock became a whisper, and each whisper demanded an answer. At first, the boy approached the task with the same careless confidence he always carried. He picked up the gears quickly, dropping them into place without much thought, eager to show his master that he could finish in half the time. For a while, the clock seemed to obey. Its hands spun, its chime rang faintly, and the boy grinned with satisfaction. But then within minutes, the hands began to stutter. The tick lost its rhythm, stumbling as though time itself had caught its breath. By evening, the clock stood silent. Its heart stopped. The boy's pride crumbled. Why should it matter? He muttered. It's only a small wheel, only a second off. Yet his master said nothing, only placed the broken clock back in front of him. Again. The next day he tried with more caution, adjusting the screws more carefully, listening for the tick. But still, he hurried. Still, he skipped over a gear he thought too small to matter. Again, the clock failed. This time the villagers laughed kindly when they passed by the shop, whispering that the apprentice's clocks never lasted a day. Their laughter stung more than he expected. Night after night, the boy sat before the scattered pieces. His hands grew calloused, his patience thin. He began to dread the sound of silence when the clock failed, as if it mocked him. Yet the master's steady gaze never wavered. Again, he would say, without anger, without judgment. Slowly, the boy changed. He began to notice how one tooth of a gear leaned on another, how the smallest spring bore the weight of balance. He started to hear the tick not just as sound, but as a heartbeat he had to protect. Hours blurred as he adjusted, tested, and rebuilt. Days slipped by, and for the first time, he forgot to look at the sun or complain about the work. He was listening to the rhythm of seconds. Then came the turning point. One evening, exhausted and close to giving up, he leaned over the bench and whispered, "Why won't it stay alive?" His eyes stung with tears he did not expect. And then, tick, a single steady beat. Then another, then another. The clock moved as if it had been waiting for his surrender, waiting for him to care enough about each second to honor it. The sound filled the shop like music. The boy straightened, his chest rising and falling with each tick, as though his own heart had found harmony with the clock's. He realized that what he had dismissed as just a second was the very thing that made the whole possible. Without each second, there was nothing. No minute, no hour, no life. For the first time, he looked at his master with new eyes. And the master, finally smiling, said softly, "Now you are beginning to hear." The next morning, the boy returned to the shop before the sun had fully risen. The finished clock sat in the window, its face glowing faintly in the early light, each tick echoing like a heartbeat through the quiet room. He stood in silence, listening. For the first time, he didn't hear background noise. He heard meaning. The master approached, his steps slow but sure. He looked at the boy, then at the clock, and finally said, "Do you understand now why a single second matters?" The boy nodded, though his voice wavered. "Because without 1 second, there can be no minute. Without minutes, no hour. Without hours, no life. The old man smiled gently. Yes, a life is not built in great leaps, but in the smallest units of time. Every achievement, every failure, every relationship, each one is stitched together by seconds. Waste them, and your days unravel. Honor them, and your days become a tapestry of meaning. The boy thought of his own habits, of the hours lost to laziness, the promises delayed with a shrug, the moments with family brushed aside because he believed there would always be more. His chest tightened. He whispered, "I have already thrown away so much." The master laid a hand on his shoulder. "Then begin now. The gift of time is not in the past. It is in the moment you are holding. This second, right now, is yours to choose. Will you waste it, or will you use it to build?" The boy closed his eyes, breathing deeply as the clock ticked beside him. Each sound felt like a call to action, like a reminder that nothing was too small to matter. The master's voice lowered, steady as the ticking. 1 second wasted is a piece of life lost. 1 second used well is a seed planted for greatness. Guard your seconds, and they will guard your future. Outside, the village stirred awake. A woman laughed as she greeted her neighbor. Children chased one another down the lane, and the bell tower rang the new hour. The apprentice opened his eyes and felt the truth settle within him. He looked at his hands, hands that once fumbled and rushed, now steady, now deliberate. For the first time, he realized that every movement, every breath, was a second he could shape into something worthwhile. And in that moment, he made a vow. Never again would he shrug at a second. Never again would he dismiss the smallest piece of time. He would treat each one as a gift, as precious as gold. From that day on, the boy no longer hurried through his work, nor did he let his hours slip away unnoticed. Each morning, he arrived at the shop with fresh resolve, listening first to the steady tick of the clocks before lifting a tool. He treated every second like a brushstroke on the canvas of his life. Small, perhaps, but together creating something lasting and beautiful. The villagers soon began to notice. The apprentice's clocks no longer failed after a single day. Instead, they kept perfect rhythm, their hands moving in harmony with the master's. People who once chuckled at his mistakes now returned, asking for his work by name. And the boy, no, the young man, carried himself differently. His eyes no longer wandered lazily. They focused. His words carried weight. His time carried meaning. One evening, as he locked the shop, he looked up at the bell tower striking the hour. The sound did not frighten him as it once had. It inspired him. Each chime was not a reminder of what had been lost, but a call to what could still be built. The seconds ahead were his to shape. And so it is with us. Life does not ask for grand gestures every day. It asks only that we honor the smallest units, the seconds that slip quietly through our hands. What we do with them decides whether we drift aimlessly or build with purpose. So let the ticking remind you. Don't wait for tomorrow to start. Don't underestimate what can be done in a moment. Every sunrise delivers you 86,400 new seconds, a treasure more precious than gold. Use them wisely, and they will compose the story of your life. If this story of the old clockmaker touched your heart, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who may be wasting their time, someone who needs to be reminded that every second counts. Let the ticking of this tale echo into more lives than just your own. And if you want more stories like this, stories that inspire, awaken, and guide you toward living with meaning, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Every week, you'll find a new reminder that your time, your choices, and your journey truly matter. Because the seconds are passing even now. Use them well.